With the ever-changing security methods, I wanted to upgrade my security keys. Of course, I have this old Yubikey I've mentioned before. This is back when they were very first released, and I've used this as a very good MFA on any account that can use it. Sadly, we're seeing not every account can actually use them. That's kind of a problematic thing. So I was looking around at what all of the other options are, and I was kind of down to either the Yubikey 5 or what I went with is an Onlykey. So what I liked about the Onlykey is it is locked with a password, and it actually can be a password manager itself, and it supports the 4 basic ways of doing a multi-factor authentication. We have the FIDO2 standards, U2F, of course. You can do OAuth with it, although that is a little clunky. And you can do a Yubikey one-time password by programming this as a one-time password Yubikey, and you can do basic challenge responses. And so this key here actually seems to be one of the better options. For me, what I really liked too is it does not have NFC and Bluetooth, which the Yubikeys have. And I kind of wanted a key to not have those because I really don't like those technologies. So I consider this the better key because of that. Now you can also set up multiple user accounts up to 24 different passwords. And I'm seeing conflicting results, either 12 or 24 passkeys. I think 12 is the exact number, although some review sites are saying 24. And overall, of course, this key here does require a lot more configuration. You're not going to buy it, pop it into a computer, and start using it as you do the Yubikeys, which need virtually no setup. Now, you can also get some customization. I wasn't actually sure that that would come with a case on it. It does have a black case. So what I end up doing is I bought a red case with it. Now, if I knew it actually came with a case, I would not have bought the extra case. I would have stuck with the black. But anyway, we can go ahead and add a red case onto it, basically make it a little bit better. You go over here to the front. You can either scan this with a QR code or just go to onlykey.io/start. And then these are actually serialized, so note to future self, edit those serial numbers out just in case there's something there. So I'm going to open up the package there, and this is what you get. And the key itself here is it is a good hardware key. Now it takes a pin, and your pin has to be between 7 and 10 digits. So it is kind of nice in that respect. It does have a very heavy duty clip here that you can attach to your keychain if you're wanting to do that. I may or may not. So since this does support 12 accounts, what I'm probably going to do with this guy is I'm probably just going to put maybe the most important accounts on it and just transfer them with that. So let's see how it works to get the little old cover off of here. So this is the black one it comes with. So that's nice, but let's go ahead and slip it on and see what it looks like with our red case on there instead. Gonna slide that in, nice and easy, and slide her on over. All right, there you go. Now we have a nice nice key with a red instead of a black. I don't know, I kind of prefer the black a little bit, but that's pretty nice. We'll stick with that. All right, so what we are going to do from here is we'll jump over to the computer and we'll talk about the setup. Now, you can do a basic setup to use this as a basic FIDO2 UTF key. Just plugging it in, and I believe you hold the 3 key with a text pad open, and it will actually give you some basic configurations on any particular computer with a touchpad. Now, to do the full programming in password management and all that kind of stuff, you do need to grab the desktop app, which is available as sadly only a deb file or a snap package. there's probably other builds of it out there as well, but I think I'd kind of probably want to stick with one of the official ones. So we'll go ahead and have a look at what this looks like, and I'll show you kind of both ways how to get it set up, and we'll use this to program in some passwords and such. I want to jump on over and run through some of the documentation first. And one of the things I realized here is I can't show you the fullest glory of this key because to do so could potentially expose passwords, user accounts, logins, and things like that. So we're going to kind of walk through and explain how to use some of the stuff in a little bit more detail than you might find on the website itself. So I actually set the key up just by coming into, you literally just open any random text editor and you hold down the 3 button for about 5 seconds and it will automatically configure your system. And then when you do that, it's actually going to give you a automatically set some PIN numbers. And that guide, that what it prints out exactly looks like this. Of course, the keys here are going to be different. So it runs the configuration and you'll have 2 passwords set or 2 pins. And so they have 2 pins here that'll give you a self-destruct pin. If you hit that one, it will completely erase the key. So excellent if somebody's trying to coerce you to unlock the key. You can be like, bim, 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 boom, aha, factory reset, deet, deet. And then they have a backup passphrase, which allows you to do backups and restores. And everything this does is basically operating under a basic text editor. So, for example, if I just come in here and I type something here, so let's say if I forget exactly which keys are which, if you hold the 2 button for about 5 or 6 seconds, and I'm currently depressing the 2 button, and then I stop, it's actually going to print out what the user accounts are on each one of these. So each one of the pins supports 12 full password sets, and the entire key itself supports 12 pass keys, and it supports, of course, unlimited FIDO UDP 1, which is the old school of doing your authentication. It also supports a Yubikey one-time password, and it also supports Google OAuth. So this key really, I have been deeply impressed with it. And it's not just a basic password manager. You can program it to go in and enter certain programs. So for Google, for example, if you go to Google and hit login, the username and the password is not on the same page. So I have the Google set to type out the username and hit enter, and then wait 9 seconds and then enter the password and hit enter. Of course, you'll see that I have a main Google and Google user only, Tux Traveler, and Tux Travel user only. The reason those are in there is because I have a passkey set for each one of those 2 Google accounts. And so if I want to log in, I can log in, and then I still need to use a multi-factor authentication, which actually is set up to use this key as well. But I can also alternatively use my Yubikey for my multi-factor authentication. But if I want to use just the passkey function, which I've actually found works really well, I just hit the username only, because then I'm presented with a screen and it'll say, hey, what would you like to do as your login? Do you want to use a password, which will require a multi-factor, or do you want to just hit a passkey? And since I have 12 passkeys stored on this particular device, it just immediately logs me in without having to enter a password at all. So that is actually a really nice feature. Now, this last site down here that lists on the bottom, in order to use the Yubikey one-time password or the Google Authenticator app, since those are time-rolling encryption keys, the time code has to be set. And since there's no battery power on the key itself, if you have the app here, and I have the app set up on the computer, it will automatically set the timing and that will work. But if you're using this on a computer without that, you can just go right to this website and it will automatically set the time. And as long as the key stays plugged into the computer, then it's going to work and you can use it for your one-time passwords. You can also use it for encrypting and decrypting files. You can actually use it. This works for Proton Mail encryption, decryption, and and things like this. So you can see down here a Keybase user search for Keybase or Proton Mail users. So I can use this and use the Onlykey to encrypt the files and the emails going back and forth to those particular users. So that is a very nice option. Now, I set this up, like I said, with the text-based system here. So that's actually what I did. And I printed out the particular keys that it gave me, and they work well. So I'm just going to keep with those. So you alternatively can plug it in and use the app. And if you use the app, it's a lot easier to manage all the information on the key. Now, some people have said you have to use the app. That's not entirely true. There is a command line function, which works in Windows, Mac, and Linux, of course. But those of you who really love the command line, you can just use the Onlykey command line utility. And while it would take a while to do, you can go in here. That's all the setup instructions. You can actually come down here and you can actually print those out in the terminal. And you can set, these are what we're doing here. You can actually set your labels. So here's get your labels. Here's setting the slot 1A, and set the URL, and then set the account login. And then it will successfully set it. And then you can set character labels. You can set delays. You can set the usernames, the passwords, and you can even come down and set your various TOTP keys and things like that. So you actually can manage this entirely with a command line if you are inclined to do that. Of course, as I said, I do prefer using GUI applications when I can. And so here I have the application set up on this particular computer. I'm not really going to be installing it anywhere else. I don't really need to. And so with this going, I'm going to lock the key now, holding the 3 button for greater than 5 seconds will lock the system. And remembering the time is really what you need to do, because if you tap the button, it goes to the 1A slot. If you hold the button for greater than 1 second, it goes to the B slot. So print out the passwords, usernames, or whatever else. But many of the keys have a function where if you hold the button for greater than 5 seconds, it will do something else. So like button 1 greater than 5 seconds initiates a backup sequence to back up the drive that can later be used to create a duplicate of your particular drive. 2 will print out the text like we did earlier. 3 will lock it. I think 6 is a configuration mode, and there's a number of different things. So I'll go ahead and unlock this again. So I just need to enter the PIN, and the buttons will flash as I enter the PIN, and then it'll tell me which account is unlocked based on the color of the code. So you can see these here are the exact same things that printed out. Now, what I can do is I can set the password here in the GUI tool by coming over here, and then you can set your basic information, or you can do an advanced configuration, and you can even set up your multi-factor. So are you using an OAuth like a Google Authenticator, or are you using a Yubikey one-time password? So you can set all of that into the one key. Now, the way this works, you give it a label. So type whatever the label is, and this just reads out what that main label is. URL, this will print out the URL, and this is useful. So if you can't always remember what the login is, you can just go right on up to the browser bar and just type the button, and it will type out the whole URL, and then it will enter it in. And then what I like to do is I'm going to put a delay on each of these, because then what happens is with the delay, it will wait for the page to load. And I set mine all at 9 seconds because sometimes I have really fast internet. Occasionally I'm in a place with slow internet. So I just set it to the max at 9, but it's a lot easier than jumping back and forth. Although it might be faster if I'm just using KeyPass XC and just using the browser integration, that might work just as fast as well. But this is excellent for on the go. So what I did is I programmed the most popular, or the most common things I might need if I am out on the go, that I can easily log into any computer with this key. So I'm going to enter that. Here's your username. If you do not check the box here, just because you fill something in does not automatically check the box. I was originally setting this up and things weren't saving. What's going on? Well, you got to check the box. So a little clunky in that. So now once you enter the username, are you hitting tab or are you entering return? On Google, you need return because you enter the username, hit return, it will load the next page. So I set mine on Google accounts, username, hit return, delay, wait for the page to load, and then execute the password. On other accounts I have, things that aren't like Google or Facebook or things that are asking for the login, hit enter, and then hit your password, then you just use your tab, and I don't just generally need the delay in that case. So some of my server logins, things like that, I can just go ahead and hit the username, tab, and then immediately do the password, entering that in. And then down here, I can do hit return after the password, none, or tab after the password. And then the keyboard type speed, the way this works, it will auto type out the information. And as I was reading through some of the background as to why it does this, it seems to do this. I think this is a little bit more secure way, typing it out manually, but you're not using your keyboard, so it doesn't get picked up by a keylogger, but it's not using your clipboard, so it's not accessible to a clipboard type attack. And then you can do your OTPs. You can set, are you using a Yubikey, are you using an OAuth, or whatever else. Now, I mentioned Yubikey here a couple times. I'm going to take a very brief parenthetical here. And there is a Yubikey personalization tool. And this is what you can use to program some more advanced features on some Yubikeys. If you just go into your Yubikey mode here, hit quick, these are the values that you're going to enter in. There's 3 boxes there, and I'm sorry that my computer is doing this weird dark theme on this. It's like a Qt application that's not keeping up with the changes in my theme settings, apparently. But you'll see these specific guys here, and those are the things that you copy into whatever you're setting up. And that's an application. It was in the Linux Mint repository. I just had to install it. It's the Yubikey personalization installer. And then once you're done, you hit your set slot, and then it will update your slot to have all that information in there. Now you can, as I said, you can set 24 different passwords. There's 12 on the first PIN number, and there's 12 on the second PIN number as well. You can manage other forms of keys, PEM format, OpenPGB, OpenSSH, so you can set keys in over there. This is your backup and restore. Once again, over here, you can see here, as I'd said, hit button 1 for 1 second. So you just click the cursor in here, hit that button for 1 second. It takes about 5 minutes or so to write this out, so I'm not going to do it. But it'll print out all that stuff in text, and then you verify the backup and hit the save the file, and it will save it. It will save it as a text file, but you need that passkey that you set up initially in order to restore it. So that is something that you still need, that extra piece of information. So there's a firmware flasher. If they release a new version of the firmware, you can flash it over here. And then there's a number of preferences. You can manually set what the lock button is. I like the default, which is 3. So I like that default where it's at. I'm not going to change that. And you can do a number of other settings over there. Here's your private keys, and then we have those various tools that we've seen. Here's Onlykey SSH agent, Onlykey GPG agent, allowing you to use this for storing various keys. So as far as the tool itself, it is far more complicated, some of the other keys, but it also does all of the various features. Now, the things I don't like about it sometimes is the website itself and all the features. It's kind of hard to find all the information. Like, I wish that this is the features guide on the website. I wish I could get this as a PDF printout. I'm sure I could hit save as, but this page here is actually what I found was the most useful. It just had some basic information here. But what I liked about it is down at the bottom is it gives us just these brief things. So these are the button definitions that you need to remember. And this is the only place on the website I could find this. I really wish this type of information was a lot easier to find. That's kind of a criticism of the project. So over here, you can see if it's unconfigured. So it's just out of the box or it's been factory reset. Hold down 3 for 5 seconds. It'll run that setup. Hold down 1 for 5 seconds. It'll do a quick setup in manual mode. Hold 2 for 5 seconds. It does a quick setup in an auto mode. All right. If it's locked, then the only thing you can do is hit enter buttons. There is the duo. This is not the duo, so I'm going to skip all the duo ones. If the key is unlocked, tap the button for slot A, number 1A, or hold the button for between 1 and 5 seconds, and it will give you 1B, for example. If, of course, you hold the button for 5 seconds, it does a backup. If you hold the button 2 for 5 seconds, it gives you that printout that we saw. And then for 3 for 5 seconds, locks it. 6 for 5 seconds does configuration mode. In configuration mode, you need to do this if you want to change your pins or your passkeys. And then I thought there was also a place that told us what the light settings were. Yeah, these are the LED lights. So LED notifications. If it's steady green, its first profile is unlocked. Steady blue, second profile. No light means it's locked. A single yellow, it's button pressed for a pin entry. 3 red flashes is a wrong pin, so you can read the rest of that list. So knowing what all of the button colors are is certainly useful. There's a lot of information on here, but the reality is this is an amazing key. I would highly recommend having one of these and setting up your most important accounts in it as another alternative, like a nuclear option. You know, if something gets in and kills all of your system backups and you have this one standalone disconnected key, I have saved just the way to get in. All right, but let's have a look at the rest of the user's guide here. And this user's guide is more or less just getting everything set up. Here's how to, of course, set up the installer. And sadly on Linux, the installer is only available as a deb file or as a snap. No Flatpak, very sadly. Now, it is on GitHub, so you can make it if you want to build it yourself. I know many people might want to do that option, but if you're looking to get one of these guys and you're using something like Fedora, you might have a little bit of a harder time versus I'm running Linux Mint on an Ubuntu base, so I could easily run the deb file. So, and I did set it up with the quick setup, but I did actually, I am using the full app here on my setup. So let me see what else I want to show you down here. It does get into how to use it for your OTPs with the Yubikey and with Google Authenticator. Let me just get down to that spot there. Here's your two-factor authentication stuff. So if you remember you're used to the Authenticator apps, you'll get this. Well, there is an option to say can't scan the code. So you'd want to grab the code, and what you're going to do now is hit the setup, hit the can't scan it button, and it's going to give you the address here. So this particular key. So you're going to take that particular key and set that up into your OAuth system. And then once you do that, hit return after OTP, and the key is automatically going to generate the 6-digit key and feed it into the website. And so that way you'll have it all set up. Now that that's done, your key can easily get in. Now, I hear this criticism. Some people say, well, what if you lose the key? That's true. And sadly, some accounts do not actually support multiple ways to get in. That is horrible because those particular accounts are susceptible to that criticism. Google accounts are not. Google accounts, Facebook accounts, these accounts, Microsoft, I believe, I haven't checked Microsoft. They allow multiple accounts. They allow multiple passkeys. I have my Google account set up with this key now, a passkey on this, and 2 Yubikeys. I am going to be able to get into my Google account. Okay. Between the multiple ways of getting in, I don't envision a scenario where all of my security keys will all of a sudden blow up all at once, especially since they're in different locations. So there is validity to it in the event that somebody can only have one form of OTP, but the reality is most services do fall back on an email or a text OTP if you have to. Now you can set the Yubikey. The sad part about the Yubikey is we already set this up. The sad part about this though is that a lot of people that are supporting the Yubikey require the Yubikey Cloud, which works but is not officially supported. And so you can read about the information over there on the page. I'm not working with the one-time passkeys at this point in time. I find that the FIDO2, the passkey system is enough for me. And so that's kind of what I am using it with. As far as your passkeys themselves, I'm certainly not going to go into this just for security here, but if you go into the command line and you do a Onlykey CLL, and then you do a credentials list, it will give you a readout that looks just like this guy here. And this will tell you the website name here. It'll tell you the username here, and then it'll read out the passkey code over here. And you can remove those using the command line tool just by hitting remove, and then you're going to take everything after the username. And that's actually featured over here in the Onlykey configuration. Here's your FIDO2 configurations. Let me get down to that part there. So this is where we are at. So setting your credentials here. Let me see where we're at. So here is the Onlykey CLI credential list. And this is where it lists them. If you want to remove it, Onlykey CLI credential remove. And then they're removing the second one of these credentials here. So it starts with the EU7, goes all the way up to the AA equals. And so that's what they typed in right here. And then once it's removed, run the list again, and you'll see that it has removed it. So you can run all of this stuff on the command line application that is available from GitHub. So that is where we are at. Let me go back to our main docs, kind of walk through the rest of these. And then, of course, if you are using KeePass XC, you can actually use this to unlock your KeePass file. So that is certainly something that you can do. And I think we're going to stop there with a lot of the other things. There's just a lot more advanced stuff and some more examples down there. So overall, what I found looking at with this system is this system does work really well. Yes, it is a little bit more complicated, certainly a lot more complicated than a Yubikey, but the fact we have a security key that is hardened with a 7 to 10 digit pin, if you hit the wrong pin 10 times, it factory wipes the thing. And there is also a factory wipe pin you can set if somebody's attempting to coerce you to get into it. You can use that one and it will wipe out the whole system. So you have that as an extra backup security feature. But the fact that we have a very simple and secure password manager, passkey manager, multi-factor authentication makes the $50 price tag on this absolutely incredible. So this key is definitely worth getting if you are concerned about security and you are looking at having more ways to get into your accounts than, just handing over your phone number or things like that. I mean, remember, guys, people don't think this is true, but it is. I do not have a Gmail account. YouTube does not have my phone numbers. I use these types of security keys, which will satisfy all of their multi-factor authentication needs. I don't have a Google Authenticator, and I don't use my phone for any form of authentication into my accounts. All of it is done with these types of security keys, my Yubikeys, which still work just fine, as well as these keys here. So that is really what I wanted to get at here today. I will leave a link for this down below, so you can jump on over there. I have a link to Amazon there where I picked mine up. And if you are looking into passkeys, two-factor authentication, or a portable password manager that's hardware-based, I'd encourage you to have a look at this. And this video is not in any way sponsored. I've never had any correspondence with them. I just happened to look up the variety of keys, research them all, and figured this is probably the best one for my particular situation, even though it is a little bit more complicated. So let me know your thoughts on all this down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.